The following podcast is being brought to you by the Defy Life Podcast Network.
Welcome to Aftergate, powered by the Defy Life Network.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is a podcast series highlighting Colgate alumni of color in their professional endeavors aftergate.
Are y'all ready?
Aftergate is hosted by Alvin Glimpf, aka Al, and Herman Dubois, aka Jerry.
Are y'all ready?
We are doing Aftergate because Colgate University has produced innovators who have changed the world every day, yet many alumni of color and the mainstream Colgate community are unaware of the amazing accomplishments of alums of color.
Are y'all ready? Welcome back. This is another episode of Aftergate, and I am co-host Alvin Glimpf, class of 91, Colgate University. I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Herman Dubois. And just a quick reminder for those who don't know before I introduce my co-host and let him talk for a second. Just a quick reminder, Aftergate is a weekly podcast. Our whole purpose is to interview alumni of color from Colgate University. We just want to highlight their accomplishments since graduation. And looking forward to this conversation. This is season 2. Without further ado, let me introduce my co-host. How you doing, sir? What you doing? What's going on?
What's going on, Brother Glimpf? All is well here in the Sunshine State. Just another day in paradise. Another day in paradise trying to make $1 out of 15 cents.
Nice. Good to hear your voice as always. No real question to start. We are coming into our second season, and so looking forward to continuing in this journey and just enjoy the ride because it's been an amazing ride so far.
Definitely want to plug Colgate for showing us love, featuring an article about Aftergate on the winter edition of Colgate magazine. It's available in digital form as well as hard copy. If you're on LinkedIn, check us out on LinkedIn. We posted it there. We've been getting a lot of love from alum who've picked up who've checked it out, and registration enrollment has picked up. So we're gonna give credit to Colgate where Colgates do. Appreciate the love, the endorsement, and stay tuned for announcements when we decide to roll up to Hamilton and do this live.
Looking forward to that. We had a great lineup last year. We got a great lineup this year. So we'd like to welcome officially to the Aftergate podcast, Miss Kianna Cole.
Yeah.
Well,
how you doing, Kianna?
I'm good.
Good to have you on. Nice to meet you. It's always, we like to distinguish those alums who we have met in the past and those we are actually literally meeting for the first time on this recording. And we've done both in the past. Looking forward to getting to know you better tonight as well.
Cool.
Let's jump on in then, right? I'm curious, before we get into the interview, how were you introduced to the podcast, to Aftergate?
Oh, I got an email.
Okay, emails work. That's amazing.
And I read the email and I was like, oh, I should sign up for that.
Yes.
And I was like, what the heck did I sign up for that for?
That's awesome.
But let's run with that. When your initial reaction, as spontaneous as it was, something intrigued you to say, hey, I should do that. I'm curious because we're always looking at how we present it, how we package it. But what was it about when the email or the information you received that made you intrigued to want to say, let me sign up?
Well, first of all, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. I particularly love true crime podcasts. So I was like, "Ooh, I could be on a podcast! Wow!" And then it's about Colgate, and it's about alumni of color, and I'm an alumni of color.
Well, damn, that sounds like me. Okay,
right.
Excellent.
But I also feel like I kind of have an interesting story to tell that's different than your standard Colgate story.
Okay. Now we
So,
know. Now we getting into it. Okay.
and I'm like, okay, boom, I'm gonna sign up for the one that's the closest to date, so then I won't punk out.
That's what I'm
There we
talking
go.
about. That's what I'm
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about.
That sounds like lesson learned from some
Yes.
Hamilton experience. But go
Right.
ahead.
So let's get it started. So you graduated in 99. So you're
Yes.
graduating high school in 1995.
Correct.
So give us a sense in 1995 what life was like for you in school and your community, but even more, if you can also even reflect back to what life was like around the world and the nation in 1995, just to set the picture of where you're coming from and how you enter Colgate University.
Okay, so I'm from Syracuse, and sadly, I still live in Syracuse, which is 37 miles away from Colgate.
Mm-hmm.
Which, looking back, I wish I would have went to college further away, but I can't knock the experience that I had at Colgate, so I'm not gonna knock that. But I went on a trip, like a college visiting trip with other public schools around Syracuse, and one of the colleges we went to was Colgate.
Okay.
And I just thought the campus was the most beautiful place I'd ever been. And I also felt like, okay, it's not too far from home, so if anything goes down, my
That's
dad
smart.
could come and
Yo,
help,
pops, SOS.
Right. My pops don't play when it come to me. So
Right.
All right.
Yep.
So the things that I remember going on in the world at that time, that kind of stick out for me was the Columbine shooting. That happened while I was on campus. I remember watching that because my family gave me a little 13-inch TV, and I had it in my dorm room at HRC, and I remember watching the Columbine footage. And I also remember the O.J. Simpson verdict.
Oh, wow. Yes.
That also hit while I was sitting in HRC watching it on my TV. So those things were going on in the world when I was at Colgate.
And while you're talking or highlighting those, and maybe this might be jumping ahead a little bit, but would you say that those had a direct effect on your experience at Colgate when they were happening, or was it just news and current events going on that it was good to be aware of it, but wasn't changing the lane you were in?
I think the Columbine situation kind of brought into the dynamic of the world and of myself an interest in true crime and just becoming fascinated with violence and why do people do this kind of stuff and what makes them become a criminal. And I think that definitely impacted where I am today as far as my interest in my career. So I would OJ also because that's a criminal, situation, and it was very, it was very out in the open, and they showed the criminal trial for the first time on TV, and we had this, almost like a American royalty, who was on trial for this horrendous crime that he had committed, but got away with. And I even was like, yeah, I'm glad he got away with it, but I don't know if I'm glad he got away with it, but I'm glad he didn't get convicted of it.
Let me ask you, just go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I just want to go back a little bit. What high school did you attend in Syracuse?
I went to Corcoran High School. Well, actually, I went to Nottingham High School for freshman year, but I graduated from Corcoran High School.
Okay.
So coming into Colgate was a huge culture shock for me because I was so used to being in a very diverse environment, and I thought, I don't know how real I can get on this podcast. I know I can't curse,
That's about it. That's all
But
we ask. That's all we ask is
And
those.
if it slips in, we'll bleep, but we all right.
We'll edit it.
Okay.
Other than that, there's very little ground rules.
So I'm gonna just keep it real. When I went to high school, the white people, the black people, we all got along. The Asians, the Hispanics, Latinx now, we all got along. We all listened to the same music. We all watched the same shows. Even if people were a little bit more affluent, they weren't that dang rich because they were going to public school, right?
Right.
So I got to Colgate, and I didn't expect the white folks to act like that. And it was just
wait. Like you said, like that. What you mean, like that? What was that?
They were so like rich, and they were so
Yeah.
racist, and they were so like classist, and they were asking me dumb questions and acting like they were better than me, and I wasn't used to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it was different.
Did you know? I'm sorry. Did you know any of the alum from Corcoran or Nottingham that went to Colgate? Because even Craig Branch and Harry Patterson, guys that were underclassmen when we were upperclassmen who came from Syracuse. I remember those specific names. As a matter of fact, those are the only two high school names that I think I remember from Syracuse that they came from. But there were also some other people that Syracuse had a little pipeline of students over the years.
Right.
Did you know any of the folks that came before you?
Some people came before me, and some people came after me. But I was just kind of close to the people who were actually on campus when I was.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So like Ty Keeley.
No.
There's a couple other people who were from Syracuse.
Gotcha. Yeah, those are definitely high schools that I remember. I think there was one more like Henniger or Hank.
Yeah, Henniger and Fowler, but Fowler
I don't remember Fowler.
They didn't go to college much.
Yeah, I don't remember a Fowler, but definitely remember Henniger. But that's what's up. So you mentioned you lived in HRC. What other dorm did you live in while you were there?
Mostly I lived in HRC, and then I was an RA.
Okay.
In one of the new dorms. I'm old now, so I can't remember the name. And I also lived in Cutton.
Okay.
And I also lived in the apartments.
Nice.
Okay. Newell? No? Or the other ones?
I don't think it was Newell. I think it was the other ones.
Okay.
The ones across from the football field.
Yep.
And then I also lived in Bunch House.
Okay.
For a semester, because me and my roommate was beefing, so I had to move.
You were sentenced to Bunch House?
It was cool though. It was cool. I liked it.
Was that when Bunch House was off campus?
It was off campus.
On Broad Street?
It was on Broad Street, yeah. And there was a whole bunch of weirdos. They were weird.
And so you were tracking up Cardiac all that time?
What'd you say?
You were tracking up Cardiac Hill all that time from Bunch House?
Yes, I was. Actually, yeah, I had a car, but there was nowhere to park.
Right.
I had to walk.
Okay. Were you involved in any extracurricular activities while on campus?
Was I? So, I learned a lot of stuff about myself at Colgate. And one of the things I learned is if you don't like something, then change it. So I was on every committee. I was involved in all kind of stuff because I didn't like the fact that they didn't have, stuff that I wanted to do. And so I was on the Colgate Activity Board. I was in student government. I was on Spring Party Weekend Planning Committee. I was on AASA. I was on the African American, what's the little cultural center?
The cultural center.
I was in
Alana.
Yep, I was in all that.
Awesome. What did you major? You majored in?
So she's a SOAM major, right?
I was a SOAM major, but I came in as pre-med.
Did we all?
Right. Because, I was smart and I like science. So my family was like, "You're gonna be a doctor," and I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I went to Colgate. I was in OUS, and I was just talking to Joy about this. I know you interviewed Joy
Yes.
because I listened to part of her interview, but I didn't want to
Nice.
listen too much because I didn't want to get like feeling like I should do what she did or whatever.
Good for you. Thank you for that.
Right.
But but I did talk to her right before this,
Okay.
and
I saw
I
her
was
in your
talking to her.
pictures that you shared.
Yeah, that's my girl.
Good.
So we were in OUS together, and I remember I came in, and I don't know if you guys were in OUS.
We
Oh
were.
yeah.
You
It
were.
wasn't called OUS when we were there. Our summer was the last summer. It was referred to as the Scholars Program. And because of all the shenanigans that some we participated in, some were a little bit beyond us,
Jury's still out on that.
they had to rebrand the
Yeah.
program.
We had some tomfoolery and shenanigans too.
Yeah.
They realized that if they
Okay.
rebranded it could take on, they could delete the history.
Right. Hit a reset.
Just yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the best way to. That's the best word for it. Mhm.
So I just want to give some shout outs to my OUS advisor.
Okay.
Please.
His name is Lee Evans.
Okay, we know
my
Lee.
man, Lawrence.
And
Yes.
and this man right here, he basically saved me from going insane at Colgate.
Yes.
Because I came in the door like, yeah, I'm about to be a doctor. So I'm gonna take all science and math classes in my little core, whatever that little stupid class we had to take. But I was about to take like
Gen Ed.
intro to bio. I was about to take intro to chemistry. I was about to take all science classes first semester. And we had to sit down with them and talk to them about our schedule. And he looked at my schedule and he was like, you might not want to take this many science classes your first semester at college.
Or ever.
And I was like, well, why not? And he said, just don't do that.
Right.
And I said, well, but I'm pre-med. And he's like, uh-huh. And he said, well, why don't you just take 2 science classes in your gen ed and then take another different class? And I was like, okay, so what class should I take? And he said, why don't you take intro to anthropology? And I was like, what the hell is that? And he was like, it's just like studying other people's cultures. And I said, okay. And I did.
And the rest is history.
Correct.
Wow. So wait, when did you was there ever a chance that the pre-med kicked in, or like, because we've had so many guests go into Colgate with the same mindset of being pre-med, and what's the best part is when people say how far they held on to that before they surrendered and let it go, right? And so for me, that was like 3 weeks because I had to withdraw from everything because I too went in with a bunch of science classes on. So they told me college was going to be tough and med school was going to be tougher and they're going to weed us out. And I ain't going for the okie doke. Yeah, okay. And so 3 weeks into the semester, I was like, help. And my Lawrence Evans was Dean Charles Rice, and who helped me drop all my classes, even though it was after the time that you could drop, and was like, I need a whole new schedule. And I became a SOAM major. And so what's interesting is hearing folks talk about, we had one guest and she said she made it all the way to sophomore year and then surrendered, and so it's just interesting when you think of all the folks that go in with the mindset of going into the medical professions. Something happens along the way that just ends up, and it's a shame, but that's a whole nother story. But nonetheless, go ahead. Thank you for sharing.
It's not a shame. It's not a shame. Well, at least it wasn't a shame for me.
Okay.
Because that wasn't what I was meant to be. I wasn't meant to be a doctor. I'm meant to be a therapist.
Okay.
That's what I am. And I made it to, I want to say, the end of sophomore year because I ended up with a biology minor.
Okay.
So I took quite a few biology classes and other science classes.
Okay.
But the SOAN classes became more, it was just so interesting. It was just so fascinating for me. And I think I just have to thank him as well as the professors because it was those classes that got me to where I am now. And it's a specific class that I took called Social Deviance that really got me to my career where I am now.
Wow. Well, greatly appreciate the shout out to Lee Evans. He's one of the alums that actually came in, I believe, a year behind us.
Mm-hmm.
So, this Colgate story, part of it is about mentoring people that come behind you, and as well as people mentoring and pouring into you and just helping us get through. And he's definitely one of them brothers that you recognize early on and try your best to give whatever you can give to help him be successful. And it's nice to see that he continued to do that for people who came behind him in different
Yeah,
shapes.
he definitely did. He's just
brother.
an amazing person. He really is. And even at 18, when I was hard headed, like so hard headed, I was able to see that this dude, like, you need to listen to this dude because he knows something. And it's only one class. It's only one class.
Yeah.
What harm can it do? What harm can it do?
In class.
Yeah.
One class.
Isn't Lee from he from upstate New York though? He's not from Syracuse. I think he's from Rochester. Yeah.
Right.
When you reflect on all of your Colgate experience, both in the classroom and out the classroom, what do you consider to be your accomplishments? Like, what are your highlights that stand out for you? And there's no classification to this, but just
for Colgate.
Yeah, what do you consider to be your accomplishments?
Making it out.
Amen to that.
Making it out in 4 years.
That's it. Yeah.
Because boy, it was a struggle. And it wasn't like, oh, these classes are so hard. It's this place is so hard. Like, this place is trying to destroy me.
But it didn't. So what were you, when you look back, what were some of the aspects of your experience that allowed you to persist, that helped you to be resilient as these forces were coming at you? I'm just curious, as you look back, have processed it now, what do you think are reasons that you can attribute it to?
Listening to Lee and taking that intro to anthropology class.
Okay.
Because it was just I got an A in that class. Okay, I didn't get no A's in my science.
Yes.
I didn't get no A's in the intro to biology.
Right.
I think I got a C in that. And I got an A in the gen ed, and I got a C in the other one, whatever other science class it was. But I got an A in that intro to anthropology class, and I remember there were upperclassmen in my class, and they were just like, who is this chick? Like, why are you getting an A? How come you're getting an A in this class? And I'm a junior and I'm not getting an A, and why are you so good at this? And so being able to have a class that I was good at when I was struggling in these other classes, that really helped. And also, the first year at Colgate was really hard for me. With all the issues, the racism, the classism, just being away from home, having a roommate for the first time. And I gotta give a shout out to Maisha Tate. She was my roommate freshman year. I know I was hard to be living in a room with, but she loved me and I love her too.
Okay.
But that first year was really hard, and I seriously considered dropping out of college that first year. And I just couldn't take it. And I knew that I had to do something. So I said, either I'm going to drop out or I have to get away from here. And so Colgate has a study abroad program.
Nice.
And usually people don't study abroad until their junior year. But here I was, and I couldn't do it. So I signed up to study abroad. And I went with the SOAN study abroad program, which is in Trinidad and Tobago. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the blackest place I could go. It's like the exact opposite of Colgate. And so I got some flack from upperclassmen for that, because they're like, you're going to be a sophomore. You shouldn't be studying abroad. you should wait till you're a junior. And I'm like, girl, I need this. Like, don't
Mm.
get out of here. I don't care if you can't get in the study group. I got in, I'm going.
Right.
And so my first semester of sophomore year, I studied abroad in Trinidad.
Wow.
And I was completely transformed.
Mm.
I went
Good.
over there and I turned into a whole different person. So like I was telling Joy, it was kind of like I shed my skin in Trinidad.
Mm.
And I came back to Colgate like, you can't tell me nothing. We got countries.
This
We
little
got
town.
countries where, you know, everybody is black. The judge, the president, the janitor, the bus driver, the professors. Everybody is black.
Mm.
So I don't care if you call me a nigger. I don't care if you say I'm only here because of affirmative action. We have countries.
Mhm.
That's deep.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Now, I'm curious. Do you have any Trinidadian in your background, or any Caribbean, or have you ever been able to trace some of your history, or?
Nah, I don't do that because I don't want them government people having my DNA.
Okay.
But I might. I don't know because the people in Trinidad thought I was Bayesian.
Mm-hmm.
They said you look Bayesian. I'm like,
Okay.
whatever. I'm black. I'm from Syracuse.
Have you been back? Have you visited the Caribbean at all since then?
No, but I want to.
You gotta go back. You gotta go
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
as an adult. But yeah, that was dope. Like that was dope. But the only dumb thing I did was I tried to take a chemistry class because I
In
was
Trinidad.
committed to this pre-med thing. Yeah.
In Trinidad?
Yes. Oh,
Oh wow. And Lee didn't advise against that.
He wasn't there.
I don't think he wasn't there. But it was. I didn't fail. I got a D.
Right. Hey.
I passed.
Right.
But I got A's in all my sewing classes.
Right. Of
All
course.
right.
I wouldn't trade that for anything. And then when I came back, it was like a whole new Kianna. Like I was just a totally different person, and I'm so glad I went.
Good for you.
Great story. Anything you miss looking back 20 some odd years later? Anything
No.
you miss?
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. My friends that I made. Also at the pub, they had this one salad. It was
The
like a
pub?
salad that
Yes.
yeah. It was like a salad that came in a tortilla bowl that they deep fried. It was like a chicken salad. That thing was amazing.
That was definitely post our time there.
You just
I don't-
40. What are you? 40 minutes away from the pub. You could ride there and get you some salad.
You know, I live 45 minutes away from Colgate. I do not go back there
At all? You haven't been back at all?
I've been like I sat on some panels where they interview people about jobs and stuff. I did that a couple times. I crashed the 2019 reunion.
Okay. Your 20th.
But yeah, only because Joy was there. I just rolled up like
It's like y'all owe me.
Yeah.
right. Because they do.
They do.
They do owe me.
This is for that chemistry class in Trinidad y'all had me take.
They owe me for writing slave on the front of the coupe and writing nigger on my damn papers and putting big lip red face people on my door. That's what they owe me for.
This happened?
Yes.
Hold on, say more. Wait.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
Just drop that and don't give us no. What? I don't
No
understand.
insight
Tell
to
us
that.
the
Yeah.
story.
So one time somebody wrote slave on the coupe. One time I had a friend named Brian Owens. He was on the hockey team. They put a noose on his locker.
Wow.
They will put, like mammy pictures on your door.
Wow.
Call you the N-word. One time somebody asked me, do you put bacon grease in your hair? Because I heard black people put grease in their hair. And I was like, do I smell like bacon?
Right, right.
Like, what the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah, sorry to hear that. I'm not sure if that's, yeah, that's,
I mean, I know there've been records of incidences that have occurred on campus, but to have had people share specific examples of things that happened to them, that hasn't been. And maybe whether it's because people have tried to put it past them, or it just didn't happen to them, and or they didn't feel comfortable sharing it. But this is a big part of what we didn't expect with this podcast, but we knew that it would help raise awareness to listeners, particularly non-AOC listeners, about the challenges that alumni of color have while they're on campus, and why for a lot of folks, it's difficult for them to re-engage as alumni because they had not the
those
best
experiences,
experiences
right?
while they were there.
Trauma. It's trauma.
Traumatizing.
Absolutely.
So, sorry to hear that, but I'm still going to encourage you to come to events, reunion, whatever. We got to reclaim that campus for, even if it's just to experience each other, those of us who had a good time together while we were there, and get to know more of us who had similar traumatic experiences. Let's heal together. So come back, my sister.
I mean, I have been back a few times, but it's not like, ooh, let's go to Colgate. So this is what I did. Now, when I was at Colgate, it's like so much of my life is influenced by that place. Everybody, all the rich white kids had a Jeep, right? So I got to a point in my career where I actually have a Jeep.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, boom, I made it now. I got a Jeep, right? So this will happen. I'm driving up 13. I'm driving up Oak Drive with the trees on either side in my Jeep, my red Jeep, with my braids, looking black AF, bumping, get money, loud as hell with my windows down. Like, okay, Colgate.
Guess who's back?
Okay.
I'm back.
But I came through, I sat down at the table with the cutlery, had me a little nice dinner, went to the little party, saw my friends, went to the cultural center, had the most intelligent conversation I've had in years.
Nice.
And then went home. So when you ask me what do I miss about Colgate, I would say just being around my friends that I made, definitely, but just being around the level of intelligence that is in that place. And it's with everybody, but just to be able to sit and talk to somebody and they are very intelligent. Because even though they would say ignorant stuff, the people who went to that school were intelligent. And you could have a conversation with them that was on a level that I've never experienced anywhere else except when I go back there. So that is something that I definitely miss about that school.
The intellectualism of Colgate. Yeah. I hear you, and I totally agree.
I definitely love the classes. I'm a nerd, like a real for real nerd. So I like going to class. I like reading the material that they gave us to read. I'll be excited about going to class to discuss these things. Especially
any favorite professors?
Denise Taliaferro, I remember her name.
Okay.
And she was a sociology teacher, professor, and she taught social deviance.
That class.
And that was a great class. And I think that was a class, and I actually reached out to her and sent her an email to tell her this. Because my career has been influenced by her class. My whole entire career. Because she gave us, first of all, we had to read some stuff in her class that just sparked something in me. And one of the things we learned about was a term called prisonization. And that's when people go to prison or jail and they become influenced by the culture of the prison or jail. And they take that culture with them when they get out of prison or jail. And they still behave in the ways they behave to survive in prison or jail. but they do it out in the community, and that leads him to go back to prison. And that's why the recidivism rate is so high. And that really like fascinated me. And that is the reason why I do what I do now.
Before we get into your career, I mean, it's always good to hear how Colgate influences careers. But before we get to your career, we're going to take a quick pause, and then we'll come back after the sponsor gets their shine and finish up with interviewing Kianna. Come right back. So this episode is sponsored by Hope Murals. Hope Murals is a nonprofit that provides adolescent youth with an interactive experience of creative expression via an urban arts platform that stimulates both mental and physical development. Please visit their website at www.hopemurals.org to learn more and find ways you can support the work they do. Welcome back. As always, we want to give special love and thanks to our sponsor, Hope Murals. We greatly appreciate all that Hope Murals does in exposing our youth to urban arts, helping them become better people. Make sure you check out their website, hopemurals.org, to learn more about their organization, see how you can get involved, and even offer a donation. You let me also show some love to our network, the Defy Life Network. Check them out at www.godefylife.com. You can find out some really interesting and empowering, relevant written content. If you're interested in more dope podcasts, check out their podcast hub at www.defylifepods.com. And just a reminder, you can find Aftergate on all of your favorite major podcast streaming services. So like Apple Pod, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeart, etc. And lastly, if you want branded apparel, if you want to be rocking Aftergate on campus, off campus, when we come up for the reunion, make sure you check us out at the defylifegear.com site. Search for Aftergate and cop one of those Aftergate t-shirts. Now we can slide into the second half of the interview, and I'm going to pass the mic to my co-host, Jerry Dubois.
And so welcome back, Kianna. We are definitely excited about learning about your journey, sort of post-Colgate. But before we go down that path, we like to delve into some current event issues. And I have to say, as in many ways, as much as we give reverence to the musical genius of Kanye West, he's definitely been in the limelight for less than some positive things recently. So as somebody who works in the world of therapy and not actually to diagnose him, but we'd love to get your spin on, where things are at with Mr. West right now.
Well, I wouldn't call myself a Kanye fan, but he has some songs that I really like. So right now there's a song by him that's called Hurricane. And that song is fire. However, Mr. West has some issues, and he's coming unhinged right now as far as his divorce from his wife, Kimberly. And I just wanted to kind of call attention to the fact that he is stalking her.
Yes.
And his behavior is dangerous. And some people think, like underneath his Twitter posts or whatever, they think it's cute and they're telling him, fight to get your wife back and all this stuff. But what he's doing is unhealthy. And my point of view is not to, vilify him, although I would love to be his therapist. Like I'll stay in his guest house and we have therapy every day. Like I would really love to do that to help him, because I think he could probably benefit from it, and I could benefit from it because I probably get rich doing that. But it's really scary because, there's young men who are looking at him, and even older men who are looking at him and thinking that what he's doing is okay. And I just wanted to take this platform to say that if somebody is doing those things to you, that is abuse, and you need to get away from that person because it's not cute, and that doesn't mean that they love you.
Mm.
It's dangerous. And if you think that it's okay as a man or a woman to behave in the way that Kanye is behaving to someone who is trying to end the relationship with you, then you should reach out for help too, because it's not a safe situation for you to be in either.
Point
That's all
taken.
I want to say about
Point
Kanye.
taken. Which is a perfect segue into sort of how we learn about who you are today. You've mentioned, you referenced it a few times, but before you get into where you're at today, can you take us back to sort of, you get out of Colgate, where does the journey go professionally, personally for you? Give us a sort of a recap of how you end up to where you're at today in with the milestones and maybe even some of the setbacks in there.
Well, I would just have to rewind a little bit back to the social deviance class, because that had a humongous impact on me. And the biggest part was Professor Talia Farrow. She assigned us a research paper. And our research paper was to design a intervention for one of the groups that we read about in her class, and I chose inmates. So I actually went to the local jail and I interviewed inmates about prisonization, which is just the socialization that you get from being incarcerated.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, in that paper, designed a program to work with people who are coming out of prison. And I got an A on it. And she liked the paper so much that she submitted it to like this national competition, which I didn't win, but um it was still a good program. And when I got out of Colgate, I worked in human services for a year. Then I went back to school, grad school, and I got my master's degree in social work. And then I started working in the human services field as a social worker. And I knew I wanted to work with people who were in prison. So I tried to get experience in the different areas that I knew people who were in prison needed help with. So like substance abuse, mental health, domestic violence,
Mm.
all the little topic areas that I had covered in that paper I wrote for the social deviance class. And I ended up not ended up. I let it be known what I wanted to do, and the right people heard it, and they put me into a position where I was the reentry coordinator for Onondaga County. And so what I did in that position was I worked with a task force of stakeholders on the state local level for people who are coming out of prison. I coordinated services for inmates coming out of state prisons who are coming back into Onondaga County. And I got to create the program that I designed in that paper that I wrote at Colgate. So I ran that program for 4 years, and we helped a lot of, it was all men, but we helped a lot of dudes coming out of prison, helped a lot of them stay out of prison, helped a lot of people that they didn't end up victimizing because they were no longer criminals,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
helped a lot of families get their dads back out of prison. And almost all of those people were people of color in my own community. So I'm really proud of that. And that came from a paper that I wrote when I was 19 years old at Colgate.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say that this school has had a big impact in my life, I'm not making it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I still work in a prison now, but in a different capacity. Now I'm a therapist, and I work with we don't call them inmates anymore, we call them incarcerated individuals um who have mental health issues, and I do therapy every day with these guys and try to help them. So today I had a session with a guy who killed someone, and that's why he's in prison, because he killed someone. But he's struggling right now to try to turn himself around and be less angry and be less like assaultive. and he hasn't gotten in a fight in a year. And I've been working with him for a year, so I just want to say
There,
that.
there we go.
So we worked on his anger and things he can do instead of fighting. But he was just keeping it real. Like I haven't punched anybody in a year, and it's like when you get stressed out and you have all this anger building inside of you because you're being subjugated by these people who work in the prison who treat people badly because
Mhm.
they think it's their job to be mean to people or disrespectful when they don't even need to be. Um, you have some built up anger, and sometimes punching somebody is a way to get that out, but there's other ways to get it out. And so I was talking to him about the other ways. So that's what I do at work all day. Try to talk people out of punching other people.
Have you ever considered
Sometimes
teaching?
it works. Um, I have taught, like I've done groups, mental health groups, but you mean being like a professor?
Yeah, I was like at the university level or in the criminal justice school where you're working with, you know, students, undergrad, even grad, who are potentially looking to work in the criminal justice system, whether as therapists or even as administrators or going into law enforcement, because clearly the mental health element of, the unfortunate victimization that happens with a lot of our men and women who are incarcerated gets ignored or gets pushed under the table. It's like a byproduct of being in there. I love the word that you
Yeah.
referenced earlier, and I think that needs to become part of professional development and training for people before they get into that career field, so they understand, have a greater understanding of the population that they're working with beyond the label of being a criminal.
I don't think I have seriously considered teaching. The path that I'm on is a little different. Like the goal that I have is to open my own private practice.
Mhm.
And I really want to do that because there's not a lot of therapists of color.
Mhm.
And right now I work full time in the prison providing therapy to the incarcerated individuals. But I have a part time job where I do therapy online. And, you know, I thank God for having friends like Joy. I have to give her another shout out because she really pulled my coat because I work full time, so I don't have a lot of time to do the online therapy, right?
Mhm.
So I signed up to do it. I only wanted to do 8 hours a week. When I started, they just started putting people in my schedule, and I wasn't really like specific about the type of people that I wanted. Like I didn't tell them, but what I really wanted was to work with people of color because again, there's not a lot of black therapists and there's a lot of black people who need therapy and what's understood doesn't need to be explained. So if
Mhm.
you're sitting across from a therapist that looks like you get to talk in your session about your problems. You don't have to explain why this is a problem.
Mm.
And so I was talking to Joy about, this one client, I don't know, they kind of remind me of the sorority girls at Colgate. And she was like, girl, tell them people that you don't want to work with nobody unless they're a person of color.
Right, right.
And she didn't say it like that, but she said it in her smooth Joy way. And
Joy
I was
way,
like,
right?
you're right. So then I said, listen, I told them, don't send me nobody that's not black. Don't send me nobody that's not a person of color.
Mm.
And so they stopped. They stopped sending me white people. And I don't want to be, like racist, but first of all, black people can't be racist, but prejudiced. Um, but the white people got a whole bunch of therapists they can go see, and it's only one me,
Mm.
and I only got 8 hours a week. And so
Mm.
now all my clients are black or people of color except for one.
Okay.
And she cool. She cool. So we keep her. But the rest of them are black, mostly black women who have all this trauma. And, I even got a Latinx man. Men don't usually go to therapy, so he gets
True
props
that.
for that. But, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to come on this podcast was, well, I don't know. That's the last question, so I'll say that.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, so my goal is to have a private practice,
Okay.
to
Nice.
be a therapist, to not work for anyone except myself, and to focus on, working with people of color through our trauma issues. And also, I would like to reserve some of my slots for people who are coming out of prison. I know that they aren't really probably going to be able to pay because I'm not going to be cheap. But the people who are coming out of prison, I will see them for free
Mm.
or on a sliding scale, even if it's $10, because they need it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They need it, and they need me because I have a lot of experience that other therapists don't have. I've worked in a prison. So again, what's understood doesn't need to be explained. You don't have to tell me what it's like
Mm.
for you in prison because I've been in there too, right with you. And guess what? They don't treat me that much different than they treat the
Mm.
inmates.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have a particular focus or specialty when it comes to therapy?
I'm eclectic, mostly like family issues, a lot of trauma, anxiety, mood disorders, so like depression,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, a lot of anxiety. There's so much anxiety out here.
Yes.
People are
Yes.
really
Yes.
worried. People don't know
Yes.
what
Yes.
to do
Yes.
with their trauma, their family issues.
Mm-hmm.
We got a lot of trauma.
As we get near the end, we always like to get a sense of perspective from our guest. So, when you look back and if you had the opportunity to give some advice to a 17, 18-year-old Kianna, what would that advice be? And also, if you had an opportunity to give some advice to Kianna when she was graduating, what would that advice be?
17, 18-year-old Kianna, I would say, just because you're smart doesn't mean you have to be a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's other careers besides that. So don't feel bad when you decide you don't want to be a doctor anymore. Like just because your grandma wants you to be a doctor don't mean you have to be one.
Exactly.
And so I read the questions you had that said, what advice would you give to a 21-year-old? And I actually wrote this down because
Okay.
I write stuff down. So
We appreciate preparation.
so what I wrote was, I'll start by saying that I'm gonna be 45 this year. So the caveat would be, when I was 21, I wouldn't want to hear what any 45-year-old person had to say because they're old, they don't know nothing, they can't relate to me. I like TikTok. I don't care what you talking about, old person. You got gray hair. I don't want to hear what you got to say. And when I was 21, I would be like more inclined to listen to somebody who was also 21, which
Mhm.
is really dumb because they don't know anything, just like me. Like I don't know anything, they don't either. But if I was looking back, I wouldn't want to be 21. I would probably want to be like 23.
Mm.
And I wish I could be 23, but know all the things I know now. But just like have better knees, because my knees be hurt. Um, but even when I was thinking about this question, like it's not gonna work
Mm.
because anything you tell them, they're not gonna listen. And even if they do listen, it's not effective because your wisdom comes from living.
Mm.
So my true advice for a 21-year-old person would be to be brave and live.
Mm.
Mm.
Try new things. Don't paint yourself into a box because you think you're supposed to do like this, or you think this is the cool thing to do, or everybody's doing this. Go for what you want to do, shoot your shot, protect your health and your credit, but try. Just like me, when I went to Trinidad, people were telling me, no, you shouldn't go to Trinidad. You should wait till you're a junior. If I would have waited till I was a junior, I might have dropped out of cocaine and been smoking crack. That's how dire the situation was for me.
Mm.
I had to get out of there. And that was like the perfect place for me. It's what I needed. So don't listen to other people. If you feel like you need something, as long as it's healthy, go for it.
Mm.
Another thing is stop worrying about what other people think of you. And it took me like 43 and a half years to get there.
And you're gonna be 45 this year? Is that what you
Right.
said?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I rock with
So stop worrying about if people like you and focus on if you like them. Do you even like this person? That you do they like me? No. Do you like them? Okay, follow your gut. Don't try any hard drugs.
Yeah.
Don't
do it.
And watch your drink when you go out.
Great advice.
Okay. I work in a prison, and I will tell you that there are lots of predators in this world. If you go out alone, don't get so drunk that you can't stay alert. And that's my advice for a 21-year-old.
Bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
So glad you responded to our email.
Yes.
So glad.
Thank you.
As we get to the end, right? A huge reason, probably the most important reason we do this podcast, is because we want to give a platform for our alums to share something that they want to share, so that the network of alums that are listening can potentially access, support, or maybe even get in contact with someone to learn more information. So is there anything that you would like to take this opportunity to share and promote to the Aftergate audience?
Well, I don't have my private practice yet, but when I get it, I'll make sure to share that. Because y'all with the Colgate, so you'll be able to afford to come see me.
Hello.
Again, I'm not gonna be cheap. But what I am gonna be is like a big old healthy Black woman sitting on a big pillow. This is what my office gonna look like when I get to be a therapist.
Describe it
in
to
my
us.
own
What it look
office.
like?
I'm gonna be sitting on a big old pillow, like Indian style. I got my fish tanks. I got incense burning.
Plants.
I got the essential oils, lots of plants. Like if you
Okay.
see my office now, I have the beginnings of this. And I'm gonna be playing like some Erykah Badu instrumentals.
Okay.
With the the 70s beads in the door.
That's what I'm talking about.
I got her.
And you come in there and I'm gonna just tell you, I'm not gonna give you no advice. I'm just gonna tell you what you need to hear.
Oh man.
And that's gonna be me giving you therapy, and that's what I'm working towards. But the message that I want to pass on to the Colgate community of all colors is that it's important for you to take care of your mental health. There's like such a stigma in lots of communities but mostly it's so pronounced in communities of color that seeking help for your mental health means that you're weak. And that stems from a lot of things. Back in the day, they used to throw us in asylums and take all our stuff and shock us and stick needles in our eye and lobotomize us and just but a therapist ain't gonna do that now. It's 2022. They're gonna talk to you. They're gonna help you address your traumas. They're gonna help you become a better version of yourself. And that is a scary thing because you do have to address things you've been through. You got to take responsibility for yourself. But, looking at who I am now compared to who I was at Colgate, I mean, I was a totally different person, which you should be. It was like 20 years ago. So you should be growing and developing every day. And if you're not doing that, then you need to get you a therapist. And you don't have to be in therapy for 20 years. You can be in therapy for 6 months. But I bet you're going to learn something about yourself and how to make yourself better. And we all can use that. So one of the biggest reasons I wanted to come on this podcast is just to say to people of color that it's okay for you to get therapy. And you probably need therapy if you went to Colgate.
Yeah.
Hey, because there's a lot of traumatized people who have expressed the trauma on our show. And you might want to have a particular line dedicated to Colgate AOC. Who want to come and share some of that trauma as a way of working through the issues that they have just been dealing with or not dealing with since they graduated. So, I'm always thinking ways to connect. So for all our listeners who might want to have that conversation, reach out to Sister Kianna Cole. Help her build her franchise.
Please do, because I can help you. I am a mental health professional.
If there's anybody who could coin PCTD, it'd be Kianna, post-Colgate trauma disorder. We can talk about some loan forgiveness and reparations for the experience and get some treatment, and it'd be a big happy family all over again.
I also want to point out that for me, the first therapy that I had was at Colgate. I went to that Conant house back in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
And I got me a therapist, and Mr. Brian Thompson was my therapist, and he was the director of the counseling center. And he took a really special interest in me. It wasn't like a pervy interest or anything, but he told me in Colgate days that I should be a therapist.
Oh, wow. I never went to the counseling center, not once, and stigmas kept me away.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being a little crazy. A little crazy people have more fun in life.
Hey, it's a little crazy, ain't no problem. It's big crazy, you got to watch out for.
Right.
Well, you can turn that big crazy into little crazy. All you need is some therapy.
Any final words before we get out of here? Great job.
I just think that, just thinking back to Colgate, I got some bitterness about that place, but I can't hate. I can't hate because I wouldn't be where I am without Colgate.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would. And the thing I love most is when white people be like, "You went to Colgate?" I sure did, and I graduated in 4 years. What, you went to SUNY?
All right, we're not hating on SUNY. Let's not.
I'm not hating. I'm just saying. You went to Colgate? Yes, I did, ma'am. I sure did.
Thank you, Kianna, for joining us. And this ends another episode of Aftergate, and it is season 2. So thank you to our guests. Thank you to our listeners. And as always, Aftergate is powered by the Defy Life Network. Make sure you check us out on all of our future dope podcasts. Check us out on those streaming platforms, and just know that there's going to be many, many, many more dope episodes to follow. So on that note, peace, family.
Peace out.
Shh. You hear that? Listen closer. That, my friend, is the deafening sound of focus. It drowns out all the useless noise that can clutter the moment. Naysayers don't exist. Haters? Smaters? The peanut gallery? Who's that? When you in your zone, all that noise and all that buzz is just elevator music. So, enjoy your journey, focus on your goal, and bask in the quiet roar that is progress. Because when it's your time to shoot that shot, spit that verse, or close that deal, the only voice that matters is yours. Defy Life.